Yo, yo, yo. I'm gonna do the Serrano bullshit. All this that I was doing last night. It was ridiculous. I'm just trying to speedrun this. This isn't even my main character. It's bullshit. So, this is all bullshit to me.
I expected as much. Questions? 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 I expected as much.
Oh, what is it?
Questions? I expected as much.
I don't have any questions except for the ones I asked last night.
We were once a wealthy and prosperous society that occupied a portion of Skyrim. Unfortunately, we were constantly at war with the Nords, who claimed the land as their ancestral home. In a manner of speaking, we had always maintained an uneasy alliance with the underground-dwelling dwarves, and when faced with extinction, we turned to them for help. Surprisingly, they agreed to protect us, but demanded a terrible price: the blinding of our race. There were splinter groups that resisted the agreement, and even some that sought alternate alliances. But when it was all said and done, those elves were either slaughtered, vanished, or gave up and took the dwarves' bargain. I've often asked myself that very same question. The blinding of my race was supposedly accomplished.
What? Holy shit.
Certainly not enough to devolve them into the sad and twisted beings they've become.
Yeah, I've did all that. Like they call them the betrayed. I know. Yep. I actually saved right here because I thought this was so cool. Like, dang. We gotta do the perks.
Wasn't as unpleasant as I thought it would be. Kind of soothing, actually. I feel a little warmer now.
Soothing. Holy shit. What the hell? Okay. Ah, a little buddy. Bam. Whoa. Oh, I thought I died. I thought I died for a second there. That was weird. That was weird. I gotta clip that and send that. That was weird. And another one. The betrayed. Yeah, Serrana has electricity. Oh. Oh, come on, come on. Yeah, Serana has electricity, like the shock spell, probably like a master shock spell in one hand, and then the snow, like the ice sickle shooting, those three on the screen. It's crazy. So when you have her and then another companion, which I have two companions somehow, you can't even get in a hit, even if you sneak and play like stealth archer. You can't even get, once you pop off a couple dudes, you can't even get a hit in because Serana's shooting with two spells and messing up those people. And then you have another companion. I have Jordas, the shield maiden, with like a sword. So she's wigging off other people. It's crazy to have two companions. I see why they don't allow that. I think I'm gonna just stick to Fireball.
Where'd you come from? I knew I heard something. Man off, I suppose.
The Walsh. I don't even know if this will be streaming. I see we have some takers.
The Senate unanimously, which means it's a really bad idea. Trans activists figure out a way to shove their propaganda in your face, even out in the middle of the wilderness. And a school employee in Oregon is accused of a biased incident because he had a copy of my children's book, Johnny the Walrus, on his shelf. All of that and more today on the Matt Walsh Show. Our Daily Wire Plus Memorial Day sale is live now. Get 40% off your annual membership and use code DW40 at dailywireplus.com. Ever wonder what gives elite athletes, business moguls, and high performers their edge? Many are turning to Armor Colostrum. This remarkable superfood is nature's original whole food supplement, containing over 400 bioactive nutrients that work at the cellular level. Armor helps build lean muscle, speeds up recovery time, and enhances overall performance without relying on artificial stimulants or synthetic ingredients. Whether you're running a company, pushing your limits in training, or simply looking for a natural advantage in your daily life, Armra Colostrum optimizes your body's systems for peak performance and sustained energy. Research has demonstrated that colostrum does more than just strengthen performance. It enhances your body's ability to absorb essential nutrients, supports the development of lean muscle mass, and improves endurance. At the same time, it works at the cellular level to accelerate repair and regeneration, helping you bounce back faster after intense physical exertion. Plus, Armra Colostrum can also support your
Bro, is this like an ad? Holy shit. Get him!
Now live in extreme poverty. What this means is that Ramaphosa is the personification of South Africa's post-colonial experiment. When he drafted the new constitution, he presumably did not foresee that by 2025, the country would have the single highest unemployment rate of any country in the world at 40%. He certainly didn't tell anyone that he eventually planned to sign new laws that would disenfranchise and rob white farmers, or that white people would be systematically slaughtered in their homes. But all that has happened, and yet, for all this time, no one, and certainly no world leader, has held this deranged despot accountable for any of them. Instead, it's been something of a tradition in Washington to pretend that South Africa is somehow a great ally to the United States and to treat Ramaphosa as royalty, as Joe Biden did a few years ago. But that tradition came to a very abrupt end yesterday in the Oval Office when Donald Trump did something that no other political figure has ever done. He told Ramaphosa to his face, in the most public form imaginable, that he's a fraud who is overseeing a white genocide. And in the process, Trump took a blowtorch to a mythology that pretty much every politician from both parties has been desperate to uphold for several decades. Now, in order to understand the importance of what Donald Trump communicated here, you have to first see exactly how he communicated. First, of course, Ramaphosa asked the United States for money, because that's any visiting dignitary now. That's what they do. They come hand in hand as beggars asking.
That's
for
actually
money.
wild.
And in this case,
That
he's done that because he's run his country into the ground.
there's a Wikipedia disclaimer on this video that says conspiracy theory, conspiracy. Like the white genocide, white extinction, white replacement conspiracy theory is a white nationalist conspiracy theory. Actually, Tucker talked to some guy.
Stop lying. And here's how that went.
Our main real reason for being here is to foster trade and investment so that we are able to grow our economy.
Man, there are white people being persecuted in Africa.
Because criminality thrives when people
I had a National Geographic magazine from 2012 or 11 or 13 back in the day, and it had this white albino, like an African kid that was albino and had white skin. You know, and they teased the ever-living hell out of him. So what do you know?
Something's not right. Be careful. Because they may be
it will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends.
So, after begging for cash, Ramaphosa validates what the reporter is saying, being patronizing to the President of the United States, to our President. He says Donald Trump needs to listen to the people of South Africa in order to stop lying about the alleged genocide of white people. Probably the most obnoxious answer that he could have come up with, especially after dozens of South Africans just fled the country in fear of their lives. But Trump was prepared for it. First of all, Trump asked one of the white golfers that Ramaphosa brought with him. This is a two-time U.S. Open winner named Retief Goosen. What the situation was like in South Africa, and the golfer responded that his father's friends who own farms have been murdered, and the farms are constantly being torched.
I grew up in an area in South Africa. There is some issues up there. Obviously, my dad was a property developer as well as a part-time farmer. And yes, these many farmers got killed. Really, the farm is still going. My brother's running, but it's a constant battle with farms trying to burn the farms down to chase you away. So it is a concern.
Oh my god, where the hell's Serana? Holy shit, I'm gonna die, dude. I'm literally going to die. Like, this is bad.
Yeah, it is a battle to get ore out sometimes when all the equipment gets stolen all the time that you're trying to get ore out.
Your family and your brother, do they feel safe on the farm?
They live behind it. Try and be at night safe. But it is constant whenever you leave that something could happen.
Oh my god, what the hell?
So this is a pretty extraordinary moment, because keep in mind, this is one of the golfers that the President of South Africa brought to the Oval Office as part of the South African delegation, helping neutralize the supposedly fake narrative, quote-unquote, about white genocide. This is one of the people that the President of South Africa demanded obnoxiously that Trump listen to. He said, all you do is listen to him, and it's like, this is essentially a witness for the defense, basically. And this is what he says. So it didn't exactly go as planned, which probably tells you something about the level of planning that South Africa's government is capable of. And things only got worse from there, as Trump dimmed the lights in the Oval Office and played a tape of South African politicians openly calling for the murders of white farmers. In other words, Trump once again called Ramaphosa's bluff. He listened to the calls for genocide coming from South Africans, and he made Ramaphosa and the rest of the world listen to it as well. And as you watch this, notice the expression on the South African president's face as he genuinely cannot believe what's happening.
Let me see the articles, please, if you would, and turn the lights down. Turn the lights down, and just put this on. It's right behind you. Johan.
This parliament is too. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever we want. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land. South African and revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of the revolutionary act.
We'll go ahead and collect these, but and this character is a high level,
These are articles over the last few
but
days.
I'm not too worried about this character.
People,
Once I actually start
death,
playing this game, I'm not gonna play on this character,
death,
but
death. I don't know. To pick anyone,
Yeah.
white South Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws. And this is all.
yeah, this white shit's been going on for decades.
This white South African couple say that they were attacked violently. Well, I can do that. Look, here's burial sites all over the place. These are all white farmers.
All right,
Oh my god.
watch them. Hi, I use an app called Jerry, and I actually have a
Jeez.
bunch of great quotes that's way less than what I'm currently paying. Oh, well, those are probably just estimated quotes. Did they actually confirm your final rates? Now watch this. Actually, Jerry got me a new policy that has similar
What is
coverage
oh
rates.
my god, Jesus,
These are all
Jerry.
white farmers that are being burned.
So just, I mean, it's an incredible moment. Again, remember, the South African president, what cued this up perfectly, and you could not have scripted it any better, where the South African president said, well, what Trump needs to do is just listen. And so then Trump says, okay, we'll listen. Yeah, let's do that. Hey, what do you think? Let's all listen.
Yeah,
Let's all just listen. For
let's
a moment.
all
Now, if you have listened to this show or been active on social media over the past year or so, then you've seen or heard most of those clips that we just saw there or heard. And you've heard stories like the ones that Trump just cited. And that's because in South Africa, black politicians have openly called for genocide for many years now. White farmers have been tortured in their homes for decades in attacks that are clearly racially motivated. And Instead of stopping the carnage, the government has just passed a law allowing the government to seize land from white people without compensating them.
What
All
the
this has been known for a long time.
Oh.
But in their coverage of this Oval Office meeting, the corporate press pretended to be surprised by this footage from South Africa. So before we go back to the Oval Office incident yesterday, let's take a brief look at that coverage. So here's ABC, for example, and watch as they deliberately give the impression that they had never seen anything like this footage before.
There was a striking moment when a reporter
Doesn't even
asked
show
President
where to
Trump,
go.
what would it take for you
Dude.
to believe that there are not these, not genocide being committed toward these white farmers? And the South African president, Terry, actually jumped in and he said that it would take President Trump's friends, some of whom he brought, it would take President Trump listening to them to understand that what he believes is untrue. And just to point out as well that President Trump, ever the producer-in-chief, he asked the team to dim the lights at one point, rolled the video to try and bolster his claims. You could see that the South African president during that moment was visibly surprised, and at one point said he didn't know where these videos were coming from. He hadn't seen them. We do not know the source, Terry, of the videos that were played.
We do not know the source of the videos. Pretty extraordinary. I mean, there's only two explanations for how that reporter could make a statement like that. Either she's monumentally lazy and she's confessing that no one at ABC News is capable of verifying the authenticity of footage that's been available on the internet for years, or she's deliberately lying to ABC's viewers and trying to get them to believe that the footage might be fake. Those are the options.
Where
and
the
if anyone
fuck
at ABC
do
News
you
was actually
go?
interested in the truth about what's happening in South Africa, they tell their audience that, yes, the footage is real, and the genocide of white people is something that they are openly encouraging over there. Now, for his part, after Trump played the footage in the Oval Office, Ramaphosa offered this response. And as you listen to this, see if you can spot the very familiar sleight of hand trick that he uses. Watch.
Let me clarify that. Let me clarify that, because what you saw, the speeches that were being made, one, that is not government policy. We have a multi-party democracy in South Africa that allows people to express themselves, political parties to adhere to various policies, and in many cases, or in some cases, those policies do not go along with government policy. Our government policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can take
when
land.
they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No.
Nothing happens to them.
There is criminality in our country.
Oh shit.
You get are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And
The majority of them is black people. And the black people are the white people, and the white people
First of all, he's right
for
that
me.
some of the clips show politicians from minority parties in South Africa. That's true. It's not very reassuring, though, for two reasons. First of all, these minority parties are filling stadiums with tens of thousands of people chanting about murdering white farmers. So we're not talking about one fringe politician here. And you know, of course, if it was the reverse, if it was a stadium full of white people chanting, kill the black people, thousands of people saying that, nobody would be reassured by saying, oh, that's just a minority party. So this is a very common sentiment in South Africa. And secondly, as Trump pointed out, the government of South Africa has just signed legislation that calls for white people to lose their homes and their farms without any form of compensation whatsoever. That's a pretty good indication that indeed the government is aiding and abetting.
Alright, let's figure this shit out. Oh, here we are. Damn, that's crazy.
Pointed out that in South Africa, the majority of people who die are black. It's one of those lines that only works if you're a race-obsessed, illiterate moron who doesn't understand the concept of per capita, which of course describes most South African leaders. So maybe the talking point works there, but it doesn't work when you're dealing with intelligent people, because intelligent people recognize thousands of people say.
People who do get killed, unfortunately through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now
The
been
farmers are
brutalized.
black. The farmers are not black.
We have
I don't
now-
say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black.
Now, first of all, he's right that some of the clips show politicians from minority parties in South Africa. That's true. It's not very reassuring, though, for two reasons. First of all, these minority parties are filling stadiums with tens of thousands of people chanting about murdering white farmers. So we're not talking about one fringe politician here. And you know, of course, if it was the reverse, if it was a stadium full of white people chanting, you know, kill the black people, thousands of people saying that, nobody would be reassured by saying, oh, that's just a minority party. So this is a very common sentiment in South Africa. And secondly, as Trump pointed out, the government of South Africa has just signed
That
legislation
is
that calls for
crazy
white
to
people
me.
lose their homes and their farms without any form of compensation whatsoever.
The white people
That's a
will
pretty
lose
good
their
indication
homes,
that indeed
their
the government is
farms,
aiding and abetting
everything.
the ongoing genocide. Now, Ramaphosa had no answer
It's
to
like
that.
Stalin, bro. It's literally like Stalin over there in Africa, like South
If you're a
Africa.
race-obsessed, illiterate moron who doesn't understand the concept of per capita, which of course describes most South African leaders. So maybe the talking point works there, but it doesn't work when you're dealing with intelligent people, because intelligent people recognize the significance of the fact that over 80% of the population of South Africa is black. So obviously, most of the people who are killed in South Africa are going to be black. Nobody's disputing that. The relevant question is whether white people, particularly white farmers, are being targeted because of their skin color.
That is totally happening.
At a rate that's higher than black people,
Yeah.
given that they're only something like 6% of the population.
I don't know about the rate thing, but that's probably true, but they are definitely being targeted because they're white. That has been going on for decades.
White farmers are being killed at dramatically higher rates than you'll see in actual war zones or places like Afghanistan. By some estimates, the murder rate for white farmers is something like 150 per 100,000 people. And that's why white people in South Africa are currently leaving everything behind. Their farms, their homes, everything, in order to fly to the United States and stay in, you know, Holiday Inns off the interstate in Idaho.
Holiday Inns.
They're not doing that for fun. This is not a tourist trip.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing
Yep,
it because their
buddy.
lives are endangered in South Africa. But even after Trump explained all this in the Oval
Oh,
Office,
we have
even
to
after
do the
Trump played
pilgrimage
the
now.
evidence of
Oh,
white genocide
how
for
the
the press
turntables have
and
turned
for
the
the president of
table.
South Africa, corporate press is continuing to lie universally about what's happening in South Africa. They're simply denying
This
that
is
white people are being
ridiculous.
targeted. So we'll put up a selection of the headlines on the screen now. I'm not going to read all these, but every single one of them accuses Trump of falsely spreading claims of white genocide in South Africa. They say that Trump abused the South African president with lies, even though he literally played 10 minutes of video for him and listened to first-hand testimony from the country. Pretty much every media outlet did the same thing. This is one compilation that Chaya Reichik assembled. Watch.
The dramatic scene in the Oval Office today. The tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Next, another Oval Office meltdown. President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump is being accused of conducting something of a diplomatic ambush of South Africa's president in the Oval Office.
To be with you, I'm Katie Tur. President Trump orchestrated another Oval Office ambush today.
Okay, we're getting there, we're getting there.
Meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader. Zelensky territory, where essentially he was a bit ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Felt like an ambush in there, kind of like the President Zelensky meeting in the Oval Office.
This was an ambush. It was orchestrated.
Ramaphosa brought his best diplomatic self to this meeting, but nothing could have prepared him.
Holy shit, dude.
It started as some degree an ambush.
Where the hell is she?
Ambushed inside the Oval Office.
So the talking points went out. They're never very subtle about it. And this was shameless. And talking about coordinated, this was coordinated to a pretty amazing degree, even by these people's standards. But there was one outlet that told the truth, seemingly by accident. Here was a photo that the AP posted, buried in image gallery inside their article about how South Africa is
shit, what a
safe
waste.
for white people. But this is an image in that article. And here's the caption, quote, "A view of crosses planted at the White Cross Monument, each one marking a white farmer who's been killed in a farm murder, is seen on a hillside in South Africa." Okay, well, that's the reality of what's happening. And occasionally it gets out. But you won't find similar reporting at the New York Times. Here's how they discussed what the white golfers said in the Oval Office, quote, "Two of South Africa's most famous golfers were drawn into a tense Oval Office discussion about race in their country on Wednesday after President Trump ambushed his South African counterpart, Cyril Ramaphosa, with videos intended to support his false claim of mass killings of Afrikaners. Mr. Goosen shared that his relatives on farms live behind electric fences in fear of crime, like many other South Africans. But the guys live a great life despite what's going on, he said. Well,
I'm 64 years old, and I've been dealing with AFib for 10 years now. I was first diagnosed with AFib, but I didn't even know I had it.
Atrial fibrillation is an irregular heart rhythm, and it can make you feel short of breath, and it increases your stroke risk.
Close quote. Yes, that's what the New York Times took from the golfer's statement. They left out the fact that the farmer's friends are dead, that the farms are being torched, that his elderly 80-year-old mother was attacked in their home. And the reason they left those details out is that ordinarily, most criminals don't set fire to farms or beat old women for no reason whatsoever. But they will do those things if they're motivated by racial resentment, which is clearly the case in South Africa. Now, over at CNN, meanwhile, they try to convince their, 15 or 16 viewers that the song about killing white farmers, which is often repeated at political rallies in South Africa, really isn't meant to be taken literally. Watch.
There, Larry, has been debate over that song, that anti-apartheid chant, right? And for people who don't have a historical context, it does potentially appear more literal. Talk to us about the debate that has happened inside of South Africa with the recognition of how it appears to people when they hear those words.
It is an inflammatory song, without a doubt. And many
Yes. Yes, our hand is gift. We just need the bow. All we need to... Okay. All we need to do is get the bow. Learn all 3 words of Soul Tear. Complete Kindred Judgment, do the 3 words of Soul Tear. Use the special power of Orio's bow, so just shoot at the sun and turn it to the fucking moon. Acquire 11 vampire perks, and defeat a legendary dragon, which will be easy. Just gotta speedrun it through. I'm sick of this.
If there was a whole stadium of white people chanting, kill the blacks, they'd be fine with it. Right? Because then those white people could say, no, we just meant it figuratively, that's all. It's just figurative. Figuratively kill them, poetically. Kill them with kindness is what we meant to, was what we're really trying to say. Yeah, I'm sure they'd buy that argument, right? So you've got, you have stadiums of people chanting, kill the farmer, and then you have farmers being killed, but still don't draw any connection between those two things. They're simply incapable of bringing themselves to say that, yes, it's bad to call for the mass executions of white farmers. They can't acknowledge that post-colonial South Africa is a failure. For the same reason they can't acknowledge that Rhodesia was a functioning, thriving state, the breadbasket of Africa, they called it, while Zimbabwe, the new name for Rhodesia, is a hellhole that needs to import food in order to avert famine. Like one after another, these post-colonial African states are demonstrating that colonialism wasn't so bad after all. In fact, turns out better than the alternative. Now, it's obvious why they can't admit any of this. Every single left-wing agenda item, from the modern civil rights movement to DEI, everything is predicated on the idea that past oppression, as they define it, justifies handouts and preferential treatment today. But that logic falls apart when you realize that any effort to supposedly balance things out and make up for the alleged sins of the past only means
okay, so
the murder
wait,
rate will
whoa.
be 10 times higher than it was in Afghanistan.
I did this.
Everyone is poor. Elderly women are regularly tortured.
I don't go through this?
Yeah, that's what that means. That's the reality. And it's gone unsaid for generations, and people in South Africa of all races have suffered because of it. So have people in this country. And it's a lie that yesterday in the Oval Office, Donald Trump confronted and debunked in the most direct way that he possibly could. And in doing so, Trump didn't just demolish one of the central mythologies of the left, one that until now has sustained the vast majority of their depraved social experiments. Trump also signaled that in this administration, doublespeak and innuendo are not going to be the default mode of communication with foreign leaders or anybody else. Instead, we'll be direct, not going to cower from the truth or sugar-coated with euphemism. Every single aspect of society would be improved if we all adopted that level of discourse. We need a lot more of this if we're going to reverse the damage that South Africa's leaders have done, and more importantly, if we're going to prevent that ideology from spreading here.
I knew I heard something.
That's been a big goal of true conservatives in this country for many years now. Yesterday, in the Oval Office, for the first time since 1960, the Donald Trump gave us reason to think that we're going to succeed in that effort. Now let's get to our 5 headlines. I've got vacation days to use, but pretty bored visiting the same places. I'd love to just pack up an RV and see all of America with my family, check back in here at the studio in a few months. Well, if you can relate and you rent or own an RV and you're tired of parking your RV in a driveway, gas tanks on empty, with no trips even remotely planned, then you need Harvest Hosts. With Harvest Hosts, $79 a year gets you unlimited, fee-free overnight stays at 9,500 amazing spots across North America. You can wake up at distilleries, farms, museums, golf courses, even drive-in theaters. Your home on wheels deserves better than another rest stop, and with their wide selection means that there's something for everyone. Discover beautiful new places, support local businesses, and finally use your RV for what it was meant for, actual adventure. Looking at some of their location options makes me want to take a break from the insanity and the culture and rent an RV to head out, do some sightseeing. Maybe I'll just go by myself because 6 kids in an RV might get a little intense. Some of the locations are truly must-sees. My family and I, or maybe just me, would probably start with the Dark Sky Preserves. Plus, using Harvest Host to map out your trip takes all the stress out of it. The host locations are vetted, safe, and well-reviewed, which means you can travel with no worries. And with over 50,000 5-star reviews, you're sure to love your journey. Between now and May 27th, Harvest Host has an amazing Memorial Day offer. Head to harvesthost.com and use code WALSH for 30% off your Harvest Host membership. Once again, that's harvesthost.com for 30% off by May 27th. And make sure you use my promo code WALSH so they know I sent you. Now, I've observed on many occasions that while everyone seems to want our lawmakers to work together in a bipartisan way, it is in fact the bipartisan ideas that are always the worst. When both Democrats and Republicans get together and agree to do something together, that's when you know that it's just a monumentally bad idea. It's bad enough when one side wants to do something, but when they both want to do it.
Yeah, bless you.
So that brings us to the bill that just passed 100 to 0.
I didn't sneeze. Come on, bless you too. Come on, bro. This is old bullshit.
NBC News reports, quote,
Open it up. Open it up. Yeah.
Tax on Tips Act in a surprise vote, which could boost momentum for an idea floated by President Donald Trump during his 2024 campaign. If enacted, the legislation would create a federal income tax deduction of up to $25,000 per year. Some limitations. The tax break applies to workers who typically receive cash tips reported to their employer for payroll tax withholdings, according to a summary of the bill. Currently, workers who receive cash tips of $20 or more monthly must report those earnings to employers, according to the IRS. Cash tips can include funds received directly from customers, tip sharing from other employees.
Bro, what are you talking about?
Really, until nobody has to pay it. Nobody involved in this actually thinks that this is part of a process to get us to a point where there is no income tax at all. So that is not what's happening. That's not what this is. Instead, this is just more of the same. This is more of what makes the income tax so oppressive to begin with. This is the powers that be, our overlords in Washington, using the tax system to arbitrarily pick winners and losers.
Like the Soros.
This is the government using the tax code as a system of punishment.
Big Soros.
Or reward. Right? This is not moving us towards a better system, but rather this is doubling down on what makes this system so screwed up in the first place. So, why exactly should people in the service industry...
I hope this isn't a big deal. I hope I can just skip this bullshit. Come on.
That's what I don't understand, that no one's explained. I mean, you can explain why, yeah, it's nice for them to not have to pay taxes, but why them, like, what makes them so special? What about anybody else? If you have two people who are both making, let's say, 45 grand a year, and one of them works retail, and the other one works as a waiter, why exactly should the waiter get to have most of his income exempted from taxes, but the retail worker doesn't? What makes the waiter so special in comparison to the retail worker? Why? And please don't give me any nonsense about how tips aren't income. Tips are a gratuity, they're just a gift. It's not really income.
Resolution,
That is a distinction without a difference in this case. And also, the service industry has been screaming at us for decades that tips are not just a gift, they're not just a gratuity, they are income. That's why we've been guilted into giving tips to everybody in the first place. Because for so long they've told us that, well, these waiters, they don't get paid a real hourly wage, and so this is their income. And so it falls on you as the customers to directly pay their salary, basically. So if that's the case, this is income. You can't have it both ways. So what? Tips are income when it comes to guilting us into giving tips, but they're a gift when the IRS comes calling? That's nonsense. I mean, pick a lane. Pick a lane here. And so there is no coherent reason for this other than our politicians just waving their magic wand and deciding to grant a special privilege to one random subset of the country. Again, this is not how you fix...
okay, I think we're done here.
This is not a way of fixing the problem with the system. This is just creating more of the
What I want to do is be a vampire and run around and kill everyone.
It's unfair, it's unjust. And also, obviously, you've just created a situation where people are going to look to convert more of their income into tips. You've just created all kinds of new complications. You've given the IRS more to do, not less. Any positive change with the tax code should always be in the name of simplifying it. It should be working us towards there not being an income tax, but at the very least, it should be simplifying things, making it more fair, making it more just, more even, and simpler, so that the IRS is less involved, not more. And all you've done is create an extra loophole that now the IRS is going to be more involved. Which again is the opposite of what we should be doing. And yet, 100% of the Senate no one in the Senate had an issue with it. I mean, what I'm saying here, these are at least, you might not agree with me, but you have to admit that they're at least reasonable objections. And yet, this is like the only thing we've seen in a long time where everybody agrees in Congress, or at least in the Senate. So, and on top of that, now you're going to have, so if you love this situation we're in now, where when you go out and you're running errands or you're doing whatever, you get asked for a tip now 20 times a day.
There we go.
Right, so if you love that, if you love getting asked for a tip, well, good news. Now it's going to be 40 times a day. Now it's going to be 60 times a day.
Oh, shit. Come on.
Thanks to this brilliant bipartisan idea, now the IRS is going to be more involved, the tax code is a little bit less fair and less even, and you're going to have people begging you for tips even more now.
Pegging me for
tips.
tips.
Because the tips are exempt. So, great. So this is an idea that just doesn't make anything better. It makes everything a little bit worse. Every problem that this idea touches, it makes that problem worse, not better. It does not solve anything. 100 to 0, though. 100 to 0. So we played this week the clip of Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, saying that he prefers to hire black people because they're better people, they're more generous. Well, he was just confronted about this during a press conference, and when I say confronted, he was really confronted. I don't have a lot to add to this. I just think it's a great. I just want to play it.
We're right here.
Let's watch it.
Real Chicagoans woke up this morning relieved.
But what is that thing?
Justice is finally investigating your race hustle. As someone who grew up on the south side of Chicago, I've heard a lot of race hustlers in my life, trust me. But they were usually marching around outside of City Hall, which is what makes this so embarrassing and dangerous. Very, very dangerous to the city of Chicago. Good question. I'm more than happy to ask this question. It's long overdue. For over a year, real Chicagoans, white and black, have been telling me that your black power rhetoric is bringing the city backwards from a place that we need the question had overcome. You want the question? Please. real Chicagoans want to know, why are you a racist?
Well, first of all, I reject the idea, the premise that somehow that's an actual legitimate question.
Okay.
Alright, we're gonna go to the next one. Alice.
Next question, my follow-up question is the businessman, Robert Gomez, had his riverfront restaurant licensed. You said that the reason you hire black people is because they're the most generous race on the planet. His riverfront restaurant license was yanked and given to a black restaurant. That has, once again, reinforced the belief among Chicagoans, white and black, and Mexican, that you are a racist. What do you say to those people?
Again, I reject the premise that somehow that your question has any legitimacy. Thank you for your time.
So that is, I believe, it's independent journalist named William J. Kelly. Great question, fair question. And Johnson's response is, first of all, a very dumb person response. I reject the premise that your question has any legitimacy. That's a classic example of a dumb guy trying to sound smart. You could just say, I reject your question. You could say, I reject the premise of your question. But he makes it as wordy as he can because that's his way of trying to advertise his own intellect. He thinks that being smart just means using more words, when in fact it's actually the opposite. Smart people are able to get a point across using fewer words. So this is a dumb response. This is a dumb person trying to sound smart. It's also cowardly. This is someone who is not capable of defending his position. These race hustlers never are. And also afraid to.
Oh,
He's
damn.
a coward. They all are. That's the thing you notice about these race hustlers.
Come on, I know you can do that.
Something we noticed when we were making our film, Am I Racist? Available now on dailywire.com.
Come on. Okay.
The most important thing. Look, our residents work. In just the last 3 years, we got more than 2,500 Detroiters full-time jobs. That's what leadership does.
Sorry. Oh, God. Oh, she fell. Oh, she fell. Oh, God, Serrana fell, dude. I don't know if she can die or what, but she fell.
About how they feel. They'll just come out and say the thing. Brandon Johnson came out and said he prefers his own race. They're more generous. They're better people. He'll hire them instead of white people. Came out and said it. But when these same people are in an environment where there's a chance of like the slightest bit of pushback, they crumble, they backtrack, they equivocate. Because they're cowards. Dumb, racist cowards. Alright, let's put this up on the screen so you can see it. A group of trans activists have put up a giant trans flag at Yosemite National Park.
Oh, I'm dead. I'm dead.
So they hung it on the famous El Capitan rock formation, and you can see it here. So now we have this giant, hideous thing defacing God's beautiful creation. Imagine you go to Yosemite National Park, all the way out to this rock formation, out in the wilderness, away from the hustle and bustle of daily life, away from all the nonsense and the noise. You arrive there, and you look up, and you see an enormous trans flag. Even out in the wilderness, you still have LGBT people shoving their nonsense in your face. Even out in the woods. Even out in the woods, you have trans people demanding that you pay attention to them. It's like a much worse version of what happens if you climb Mount Everest these days.
Get 'em.
As of course I know from extensive experience. But if you climb Mount Everest, you get up 2/3 of the way, and there's a line. You know, there's like, you came all this way to the highest point on Earth, and there's a freaking line you have to wait in. Soon they're going to have a visitor center at the top, and like a gift shop and a Dairy Queen. So it's depressing, but this is way worse. So why are they doing this? Well, empty lives, desperate for attention. We know why.
Yeah, she's
But
got
what
him.
reason do they give? Here's a guy dressed like a park ranger from somebody's nightmarish acid trip, who is going to explain to us why they're doing this. Let's watch.
Some carry hate, and we carry the largest trans pride flag to ever be flown in a national park, and unfurled it on the side of El Cap to prove a point that trans is natural. The Trump administration trans folks would love to have you believe that being trans is unnatural, but species that can transition sexes can be found on every continent, in every ocean on planet Earth. So call it a protest, call it a celebration. We are bringing elevation to liberation. They try to erase us from government websites and education systems and libraries. We raise this flag higher than ever before so every trans person knows that they have people that love them in their corner. The people united will never be defeated.
I like how the name tag on that this guy's wearing says gay, in case you didn't pick up on that, in case you didn't notice, in case there was any confusion, he's gay. Just so you know, that's a gay guy. You wouldn't have known otherwise. I know when you look at a dude in a park ranger outfit with a miniskirt wearing like more makeup than a Republican woman on Fox News, when you see all that, I know you must be, you think to yourself, well, that guy must be straight. That's straight all day. That's straight if I've ever seen it. But no, it turns out he's gay. So, I know when you see a dude who, it looks like if Kathy Griffin was a character on Yogi Bear, when you see that, you think, that's heterosexual. If I know heterosexual, that's what that is. But no, he's gay. So, and honestly, all I could think when I watched this is that I hope this guy is not an actual park ranger. I don't think he is. But I don't know. Can you imagine getting lost in the wilderness and you've been lost for 9 days and and then suddenly this guy shows up to rescue you? Imagine you're huddled around a campfire, and you're starving and this guy emerges from the darkness. You would assume that you had died and you're going to hell. That's what you would assume. That would be your first thought. You would think, okay, this is the demonic entity that has come here to drag me to hell. This is it. This is how it's going to happen. Anyway, so he says that trans is natural. Now, I've recently addressed this kind of line of argument as it pertains to homosexuality. It's a really bad argument. It's a very dumb argument. Just because something occurs in nature doesn't mean it's acceptable or moral or okay or normal for us to do it as humans. Just because a certain behavior can be observed in the ocean, that doesn't mean that we should model ourselves after it. Your role model in life should not be an octopus or whatever. If you do something and you can't justify it by saying, hey, what's everyone upset about? Hammerhead sharks do it too. Doesn't work. For example, squids are cannibalistic. Is it squids or squid? The squid is the squid, the plural of squid. Anyway, so they're cannibals. They eat their own species, and that is acceptable behavior for a squid. But if you get caught at your dining room table chowing down on your neighbor's torso, you're not going to be able to get off the hook by saying, hey, what's the big deal? Squids do it. Oh, I see. Oh, okay. So when a squid is a cannibal, nobody cares. But when I am, everyone's got an issue with it. You're not going to be able to do that. It's not going to be a convincing line of argument. And it especially doesn't work here because, yes, it's true that some species can change their sex. And he puts up on the screen an image of a clownfish as an example of something that can change their sex. And yes, clownfish have been observed changing sex. But human beings do not change sex. That is not a thing that humans have ever done or will ever be able to do. Humans are not clownfish. Clownfish also have gills. They can breathe underwater. We can't do that either. You know what's crazy? Our lives actually don't resemble the lives of clownfish at all. If we were to do Kamala Harris's favorite thing and make a Venn diagram, and we've got humans and clownfish, there's very little that's going to be in that middle little bit. Like, there's not a lot that you're going to find. It's going to be a lot of things. There's not a lot of commonality between humans and clownfish. So, so yes, clownfish, and this is one of those things that doesn't really cross over. They do change sex, humans don't. Our whole point about quote-unquote transgenderism isn't exactly that it's unnatural. It's that it's impossible. It's not real. It doesn't exist. It's not a thing in the human species. Clownfish literally physically change sex, which means that a clownfish with the reproductive capacity of a male can switch and develop the reproductive capacity of a female. This is a survival mechanism in their species. It is not a survival mechanism in ours. Trans people don't do this. Even with the help of surgery and drugs and hormones, they still don't do it. There has never been, ever in history, a male human who developed or in any way obtained the reproductive capabilities of a female human, or vice versa. This has never happened, ever. It happens in clownfish, but not in humans. Now, I'll be the first to say, if that did exist, if there was a male human who said, I'm going to transition into a woman, and now suddenly, through some dark magic, actually has the reproductive capacity of a female, can bear children, then I would say that, yeah, okay, well, that's a trans person. The first one. There it is. That's what that would be. But that doesn't exist. It's not a thing in our species. So that's it. And that's why you can take the trans flag down from the cliff there and let everybody enjoy God's creation without your incessant whining. That would be good. Let's get to the comment section.
New Airhead Sour Box. Start sour and stays sour.
If you're a man, it's required that you grow a beard, hey, with a sweet baby gay.
Pure Talk, my wireless company, a veteran-led company, believes every man and woman who has faithfully served the country deserves to proudly fly an American flag that was made in America. And that's why Pure Talk is on a mission to give an allegiance flag, the highest quality American flag, period, to 1,000 U.S. veterans in time for the patriotic holidays. Just switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk this month, and a portion of every sale will go to provide these high-quality flags to deserving veterans with plans for just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data. You can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill in half. The average family saves over $1,000 a year. Just go to puretalk.com/walls to switch hassle-free in as little as 10 minutes. Again, that's puretalk.com/walls to support veterans and to switch to America's wireless company, Pure Talk. There's one thing I agree with from that black guy that says you shouldn't marry outside your race. No, not that part. I'm not racist. He said, Angel Reese can be great in her own right, as Caitlin Clark is as well. Indeed, she can be. All she needs is talent, skill, sportsmanship, intelligence, and most of all, greatness. Acquire those things, and she can be great. Yeah, and also, speaking of Ryan Clark, I just saw this morning that apparently, and I didn't know this when we talked about it yesterday, apparently, he also has a mixed-race kid. He was forced to put out a tweet, I think this morning, where he confessed that he has a mixed-race kid, which normally wouldn't be the kind of thing that would come up in a conversation about basketball. I mean, it's not the kind of thing you would normally have to confess. But he, of course, was condemning RG3 for marrying a white woman, and it turns out that Clark has a mixed-race daughter. So, he's done exactly the same thing. Or, in fact, he hasn't done the same thing. He apparently had sex with a white woman and produced a kid, but did not marry the mother. So, as opposed to RG3, who married, the mom. So he's a hypocrite, a racist, and a deadbeat, all at the same time. Just a real catch, that guy. Let's see, yeah, I'm definitely calling BS on the racial slurs. Someone yelling racial slurs in a multiracial crowd, someone would have caught it, and someone would have made a big deal about it for the cameras to see, like they did at the BYU volleyball game. Right, well, exactly. And also just the idea of a raving, shouting racist going to a WNBA game is very funny to me. That's a very funny idea. The idea that someone went to a WNBA game and then looked around and was shocked and appalled by all the black people. That's funny. That's That would be a good, you know, like old Chappelle show bit or something. Some racist white guy sits down, all excited to watch some WNBA basketball, and then looks around and sees that it's almost all black women, and goes, what the hell's this? Since when do black people play basketball? That's pretty funny. So, but I don't think that actually happened. Let's see, I honestly forgot that Starbucks exists until there's something in the news about the employees complaining. People still pay for overpriced bad coffee? Yeah, I'll keep making better coffee at home for cheaper. No, listen, you know what, I'm not gonna go along with the Starbucks slander. I mean, slandering the employee...
Okay. I love it too, bro. Okay. Let's take a hit of the Carterino. Cheers, genitals. Holy shit. Dude, come on. What do I need to do? This? Yeah. Ooh.
Where'd you come from? Bruce? Roda! That'll teach you.
Well. Get him.
Who's Roda? Who's Roda? Who's Roda?
Oh my god. Fuck it. Oh, come on. Come on. Come on. Bro. Come on. Oh my god. I don't know how to fix this. Help me. Help me. Oh, this might just work. Yeah. Now we do fly, and we have to get out of here. Oh my god. all. Damn. Oh boy. Jeez.
As does my blade.
You found the Way Shrine of Radiance, and may the blessings of our help. You climb the road to the inner sanctum and finally light.
Be careful.
That has to be the place. I've never seen a building like that before. It looks like some kind of temple. Never saw anything like this back on the island. It's using the older signs of his power. This temple must be ancient. The bow has to be in here. Yes? Alright, let's see what you have. Yes? This better not be all the things you just can't be bothered with.
Did you really come here expecting to claim Ariel's bow? You've done exactly as I predicted and brought your fetching companion to me.
Wait, is he talking about me?
Which, I'm sorry to say, means your usefulness is at an end.
I knew I heard something.
An impressive display, but a wasted effort. You'd